The 2016 Jane Alexander Global Wildlife Ambassador is a woman of courage and conviction who will forever be linked with a conservationist of courage and conviction. After spending months in Rwanda while filming gorillas in the mist 30 years ago, she became honorary chair of the Dian Fossey Gorilla Fund International and has been an active part of that organization ever since. Sigourney Weaver walks the walk of an environmentalist, including narrating the TV series Planet Earth and taking leadership roles on environmental issues wherever she is needed, including at the United Nations. She has received the Explorers Club Communication Award and the Audubon Society's Rachel Carson Women in Conservation Award. And now she is the 2016 Indianapolis Prize Jane Alexander Global Wildlife Ambassador. Please welcome a great actor and a true ambassador for our planet, Sigourney Weaver.
It's going to be hard for me to wear that around my neck every day. I didn't know it was going to happen so soon in the evening. First of all, I'm so excited to be here in Indianapolis and to be here tonight with all of you for this incredible occasion. I'm so deeply honored and humbled to receive this title. It's such a great honor to be in the room with so many people who care about conservation, but so many real field conservationists. You have the best jobs in the world. I am so envious. I know they're also the most difficult, but anyway, it's a great thrill for me. And to be given this award by Jane Alexander, whose work in the theater and in conservation I have always admired. It's just overwhelming. So I want to thank Michael and the Indianapolis Prize for having me here tonight. It's such a privilege for me to add my voice and support to all of you who do so much. Anyway, it's going to be difficult for me to get that full title on a t-shirt, but I'm going to try. You know, to be given a title like this it's like being given a job. It's a little like what Michael said. It's like you're being knighted, and now you go off, and you fight the windmills and other much worse things. So let me tell you a little bit about how I got involved with the Dian Fossey Gorilla Fund. You know, playing Diane and spending 2 months with her study group 5 for the movie Gorillas in the Mist in 1987 obviously had a huge impact on me. But let me tell you how I would say my conversion began. I didn't have the opportunity to meet Diane. I had followed her work for years, and it was shortly after her tragic death that I was asked to play her. And I'd never played a real person before, and Diane was a very complex person. So when I interviewed people, one person would say this about Diane, and then the next person I interviewed would say the opposite. So I was like, so I read that the great Farley Mowat, another great conservation hero, was writing a book about Diane, and I got in touch with Farley, and I asked him if I could read the manuscript, and he said, yes, come up to Nova Scotia. So I made my way up to his house in Nova Scotia, and I knocked on the door, and he opened the door with a big smile on his face, and he said, you won't believe what just happened. I said, what? He said, well, I just got a call from Warner Brothers Books. I am writing a Warner Brothers book, and you are making a Warner Brothers movie, but I am not allowed to show you the manuscript. That's the business I'm in. So I was sort of thunderstruck. He said, "Come in and have a cup of tea." And he showed me into the living room. He brought me a cup of tea. He took the manuscript in his paws out of the room and sort of gave me a little wink. I looked down at the coffee table, and there was a single piece of paper on it. And so I picked it up, and it was a letter from Diane Fossey to a friend of hers named Cindy. And it was a long typed letter, and it started with a sort of talking about how extraordinary Cindy's family was. You know, her parents, and then it went into how important her friendship with Cindy was and how much they'd meant to each other. And at a certain point it said, "You and I agreed a long time ago never to cry in front of each other." And then it went on about the friendship. And it wasn't until I got to the last line of the letter that I realized, I realized that it was a letter from Diane to her very dear friend, her dog, Cindy. And it was in that instant that I realized that Diane saw the world in a very different way than I do. I had always been a member of the species on the planet, not one of many species on the planet. And once you are hit by that thunderbolt and see the world as belonging to all of us creatures, you can't really go back. The rest of it, I think I learned from her other dear friends, from Gorilla Group 5, Ziz and Maggie and Effie and all the other gorillas. I remember toward the end, I was really going out with them like every other day for 2 months. It was the most glorious opportunity for me. And I was sort of sitting there, and they were so used to me by this time, they didn't pay any attention. I was sort of covered by the little gorillas jumping around. They were sort of jumping up and down on me and pulling my hair and pulling at my rucksack and urinating on me. And I remember thinking, gosh, this must be what it's like to be a mother. And so I have the gorillas to thank for making me a mother too, because I had my daughter shortly after that. The film became what Diane hoped it would be, an ambassador for her beloved mountain gorillas. And in the course of it, I became one too. And in 1990, the Diane Fossey Gorilla Fund asked me to serve as honorary chairperson, and I've been in that role ever since. And it's given me a chance to be part of one of the most remarkable conservation success stories ever. Mountain gorillas are the only great ape subspecies in the world to be increasing in number. With fewer than 900 individuals, their sustainability is still fragile, but with research, anti-poaching, and other techniques pioneered by Diane, it's resulted in huge gains in knowledge and a critical population rebound for mountain gorillas. The Fossey Fund is now celebrating its 50th anniversary, now under the leadership of our wonderful Tara Stawinski and scientists like the amazing Veronica Viciello, who are both here tonight. Hooray. They're amazing. Our mission has now expanded to include saving Grauer's gorillas in Congo, which are critically endangered after years of conflict in the region. But to me, the most forward-reaching thing we did was to focus on the local people at the base of the Virungas, their health, their education, their well-being. This has made all the difference. Today, the Karasoke Research Center is led by a Rwandan scientist, Felix Njagimana, and hundreds of local college students study at Karasoke each year. Thousands of young kids are reached every year through the Fossey Fund's conservation programs in primary and secondary schools. So the next generation of conservationists are actually being created as we speak. And indeed, in Rwanda, the whole nation has embraced gorilla conservation in a way I know that Diane could never have envisioned. Every year they have the gorilla naming ceremony called the Kwita Izina, which is a major event, held annually, and the country's president always attends. You know, we have now a local health clinic, the first ever maternity ward built by the Fosse Fund and its donors, and at a nearby school, there's now a library and a computer center serving a community of 2,000 people, people who've never had access to basic services like this. To me, the Fosse Fund has shown that when conservation includes community, everyone is lifted. And when people thrive, gorillas and other wildlife will thrive as well. Diane loved the gorillas, and she passed that on to so many of us as well, along with the responsibility to do everything we can. The Diane Fosse Gorilla Fund has provided me with an opportunity to help, and I'm so grateful. Our children and our fellow creatures deserve to live on a peaceful and verdant planet. And if countries and politicians can focus attention on the great apes and their habitats, then there's hope that the gorillas and all of our precious wild friends will be with us for generations to come. Thank you.